Hello again. This is my house, bathhouse with a sauna. There, a bit further away is my bike. Oh, let's see. Yeah, there you see it. So this is Ukraine. And I thought about doing bicycle tourism and building in this garden. This big garden, it's a really big garden. It's about 4,500 square meters. Little houses, maybe places for tents for tourists to do bicycle tourism. They're fantastic places, close and far for those who want to make long and short bike trips. But today I'm going to tell you about something else, and it's about psychology. So here, by the way, there are frogs, but also turtles. I saw a turtle in the garden. There's also sort of a bridge. So if this, you could almost call it a lake. So I saw a stork a few days ago, and turtle. There's much more wildlife, I think, in Ukraine. The first time I saw a squirrel was even in Ukraine and not in the Netherlands, which is weird. I saw it in Sumy, which is a city, but in the city center, it's fairly green, a tree, and I saw a squirrel going off. Wait, what? A squirrel? Here in the park, here, 10 kilometers away in Kremenchuk in the park. There's also a few weeks ago, I was in a park, squirrel running around, people making pictures, etc. Okay, I want to talk about psychology, and in the meantime, you can have a look at this beautiful site. So if you're interested, come to Ukraine. Yesterday morning, there were explosions. I and a friend were doing some disc throwing in the garden. And then a bit later, we heard something going overhead, so like a small aircraft, a drone. It's like a radio-controlled aircraft with a petrol engine, something like that. But I don't think they're radio-controlled, but more autonomous, but I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, yesterday a friend of mine asked about what my view was about psychologists. I talked with him about my list of life, and I mentioned that a bit about in relation to not worrying, and also cognito-hazards. And I thought this whole concept of cognito-hazards is so incredibly stupid, but that depends on of course, that I have a view of what is the point of this, and then you don't even think about it or don't do it, and don't let yourself get used into thinking about certain things. For example, one of these cognito hazards, if you want to call them, was a game. If you think about it, you lose. I immediately say, I'm not playing your game. Who cares? In any case, so we had talked about this topic, list of life, and if someone he knows was having some issues in life, let's walk around a bit. So this is the bathhouse, the rear side, there's also for a grill, something like that. So I cut the grass with a corded lawnmower, and it went quite well, I thought. But I think I'm going to buy a battery-powered lawnmower. In any case, there's one neighbor there that's just open fields. Farmer, I think, farm fields. So he asked me about psychologists, maybe his friend could use one. And I told him the issues I had with interactions with psychologists. One in relation to Schiphol airport. He called me, and then I did not tell him exactly, but this is what happened. He called me after I posted a message on a website about noise from Schiphol or from the aircraft there. And this guy was a complete moron. But okay. There are other. I've dealt with other psychologists in person, but also via the internet, and none of them properly understand people. And I told him that, but also what my sister told me about her interactions with psychologists, for example, with job counselors. I've also had one woman, I mentioned her before, a job agency, and they have psychologists, and one of them was for C++ programming. She was an expert in C++ programming. What do you mean expert? She doesn't know anything about programming. A psychologist. And I needed to tell her, explain to her, what gives purpose in life. I thought, come on, what an idiot. But also on YouTube or on websites, I've never seen a competent psychologist. I said it would be better to let that person look at my list of life. So I mentioned that before. This is about not worrying, not having regrets, doing what makes you happy. Also, you need to examine your goals in life. Make them soft goals, easily changeable. And the path to a goal should be what you like, what you find interesting. Then it will always be a good experience. What is this? Some junk. Okay. Even if you don't reach the goal. So I want to make a video about my whole list of life. I had some talks at the Kremenchuk Center. The first one was in March, which in Kremenchuk, which are educational centers, and it was about my experiences of Ukraine, of living in Ukraine, being in Ukraine, traveling in Ukraine, and why I decided to go live here, and also my list of life. So why I don't worry about explosions, or why I wasn't scared about, for example, when I was in Zaporizhia, when there were rocket attacks, explosions, incredibly loud explosions. I will come back to that a little bit later. So I mentioned this list of life before, and that I would make a video, but that'll come in due course. So there's a lot to do when you move to a different country. Tools, for example, I need to buy a lot of tools, fix things in the house, do painting, getting a lawnmower, a lot of things. And this thing, maybe restore this from the water. I have no idea. This is probably going to be incredibly heavy. Or is probably incredibly heavy. Okay. So I told my friend also that I had a conversation, messages really, via Telegram, via someone I met there, a woman at the Kremenchuk Center who attended a few meetings. And she is studying psychology, and I said to her that I found that most psychologists do not understand people. Let me get the exact messages. Let's see. This is what I'm critical about, so this is what I wrote. Often psychologists don't understand why people do things. And then she wrote, exactly. It depends on why a person is learning psychology, to deal with his deepest personal problems or complexes, to make himself great, to make money, to help humanity and individuals, to understand more himself and others. And that is actually, one of them is the main point. I alluded to this before in one of my videos. I said that you can know this reason why people study psychology. Just ask yourself, why do people study psychology? And you can ask psychologists. And many of them told me even, without me asking. And it was almost always the same. They had some issues themselves and they wanted to understand themselves. So now I've given you the answer. And the strange thing is, you really should have been able to deduce this yourself. A friend of mine, so the one who asked me about psychologists, I asked him, I said to him that you can know this reason by asking yourself, why would someone go study psychology? So I asked him, and he thought a bit about it, and then gave the answer. People have inner problems themselves, so they want to understand, fix it. And I said, correct, that's it. That's the main reason why people go study psychology. Not all of them, of course. But it's a problem, and I said to him further, it doesn't work. They've had all their life to understand themselves and people. They don't understand themselves and people. That's not going to change with 4 years of psychology. What can happen is that they understand life in a sort of abstract way, and people in an abstract way. They can sort of categorize. I saw that with the guy, the psychiatrist who was interviewing Kit Boga. I mentioned him, and I dealt with him and the psychopathic woman that I made a video about, 2 videos about as well, Patrick Cagnier. In the Goncharenko Center, I gave these examples of how to understand people and certain type of people to avoid. These people understand certain things in a way that is emotion poor, abstract, not lived. They do not understand life really and people really. Let's have a look here. Can be a bit noisy in the evenings from frogs. So yeah, that's maybe interesting to you. That's so my friend who lives 500 meters away or so from here thought a bit about it and knew immediately what the reason was when I asked him in any case this question, why would someone go study psychology? So that's the question that makes you asking the right questions. That's a very important issue in life, in analysis. And I will go over a few other topics soon. So I'm going to upload a bit. There's still a few things I need to do that take my time. But maybe I will upload this first and then a few others, or the other way around. I don't know yet. You will see. That's it for now. Bye.